They told me therapy would help me heal. What they didn't tell me was that my therapist would slowly, deliberately, and almost lovingly turn me into someone I never imagined I could become her daughter. My name is Aiden. I'm 26 years old, quiet by nature, a little socially anxious, and the kind of guy most people would describe as polite but forgettable. For years I've worked in data entry at a mid-sized logistics company in the city. It's not glamorous, but it pays the rent and lets me blend in. And blending in has always been my survival instinct. I don't like being noticed. I prefer the background, the silence, the ability to disappear. My girlfriend Emma is the opposite. She's a whirlwind, loud, confident, stylish. She works in marketing and seems to exist on a higher frequency than I do. She pulls me out of my shell, challenges me, and when we met, I thought she was everything I needed. But lately, I've felt more disconnected. Like we're walking down two separate paths that occasionally cross, but never truly merge. After a panic attack at work last year, my manager gently suggested therapy. I'd been burning out, emotionally drained and mentally frayed. Emma supported the idea. She even helped me search for someone. That's how I found Dr. Sylvia Kerr. Her office was tucked away in an ivy-covered building at the edge of downtown. It felt more like a high-end boutique than a place for mental healing. The waiting room had velvet chairs and soothing jazz playing in the background. The receptionist was always calm, always smiling, and always dressed as though she'd just walked off the set of a fashion editorial. Dr. Kerr herself was unforgettable. Tall, poised, with sharp cheekbones and silver hair swept into a perfect chignon. She wore long skirts, silk blouses, and pearls, always pearls. She had a voice like velvet and eyes that could see straight through your skin and into your soul. On our first session, she didn't ask me what was wrong. She asked me what I was hiding. It was like she already knew. I told her about my anxiety, my feelings of detachment, my constant desire to disappear. I admitted that I often felt like a stranger in my own life, like I was living a story someone else had written for me. She nodded, always nodding, her pen barely moving across the notepad. "You're carrying too many masks," she said quietly. "We'll peel them away one by one." At first, therapy seemed normal. Talking, reflecting, journaling. She encouraged me to be honest. She called it emotional excavation. The deeper we dug, the more she led me into uncomfortable territory. Childhood memories. Moments of shame. Feelings I didn't even realize I'd buried. And then, one session weeks in, she made a suggestion that changed everything. "Have you ever tried stepping outside yourself?" she asked. I blinked. "What do you mean?" "Therapeutically. Some of my clients, especially those who struggle with identity, find it useful to role-play, to explore sides of themselves they don't usually express." I hesitated. Like, pretend to be someone else? Her smile was gentle. "Not pretend. Allow. You wear one version of yourself every day. What would it feel like to try on a different one?" I didn't answer right away. I didn't want to admit the truth, because the idea wasn't foreign to me. Ever since I was a teenager, there was something quietly thrilling about the idea of stepping into someone else's skin, specifically the opposite gender. It wasn't a fetish. It wasn't even sexual. It was soothing, calming, like slipping into warm water. I'd never fully explored it. Just vague thoughts, little moments, a stolen glance at Emma's wardrobe when she wasn't home. I kept it buried. Deep. "I don't know if that's for me," I said. "That hesitation tells me it's already inside you," she replied. A few sessions later, she presented me with a small folded bag at the end of our meeting. "It's a therapeutic exercise," she said as I took it, puzzled. "Try it when you're alone. No expectations. No pressure. Just feel it." When I got home, I waited until Emma went out for her yoga class. I locked the bedroom door, pulled the curtains, and opened the bag. Inside was a pale lilac blouse, soft to the touch, almost translucent. And a note. "Try it on. Sit with yourself. Breathe." I hesitated. Then I slipped it over my head. It fit perfectly. It clung gently to my arms, floated around my waist. I caught my reflection in the mirror and felt a strange warmth bloom in my chest. Not excitement, not shame, something softer, a quiet peace. That night, I couldn't sleep. The feel of the blouse haunted me in the best way. I brought it back to the next session, folded and pristine. "What did you feel?" she asked. Strangely calm, I admitted. She smiled. "Good. Next time, we go a little further." And we did. Week by week, she added to the exercise. A pair of stockings, a skirt, a touch of lip gloss. It was always subtle, always framed as therapy. "We're rewiring your relationship with yourself," she'd say. "You've been hiding for too long." Emma started to notice changes. I was calmer, more emotionally available, more confident. She liked it. She said therapy was working. I didn't tell her how I was working through it. I told myself it wasn't lying, it was privacy. Dr. Kerr became more invested, more hands-on. She adjusted the hem of the skirt once, brushed hair from my forehead during a guided reflection, applied the lip gloss herself during one exercise, whispering, "See how you soften? You're not breaking down, Aiden. You're breaking through." The line between therapy and transformation began to blur. One evening, she said, "Names of power. When you wear the skirt, the blouse, the gloss, what name do you feel?" I paused. The name came without hesitation. Ava. She smiled as if she'd been waiting. Then, "Ava, you're safe here." I didn't know it then, but that was the beginning of the end of Aiden. She started calling me Ava exclusively in sessions. She adjusted the lighting, bought me clothes, taught me how to walk in heels, how to sit, how to speak softer. She never forced, never demanded, just gently guided. "This is therapy," she reminded me. "Not a costume, not make-believe. This is you, unbound." I started seeing Ava in the mirror more often, not just in therapy, at home, late at night. When Emma was asleep, I'd sneak out the blouse, the skirt, add mascara, sit in front of the mirror and try to breathe through the guilt and the joy. But Emma wasn't stupid. One night, she came home early and I'd forgotten to take off the lipstick. She stared. I panicked. She didn't yell. She just looked at me and said, "Whose are those?" I had no answer. She left the room without another word. At therapy, I told Dr. Kerr everything. She wasn't surprised. "The truth always finds its way out," she said. "Let it. Don't resist." She placed a small box in my lap. Inside was a necklace. Delicate. Feminine. A charm that read Ava. "This isn't about deception anymore," she said. "It's about emergence." By now, I wasn't sure who I was outside her office. Aiden felt like a fading photograph. Ava was clearer, sharper, more alive. And yet, the fear lingered. What would Emma do? What would the world say? Was this therapy, or was it something else entirely? I wore the necklace home that night. Emma didn't come home. And when I looked in the mirror, the person staring back at me didn't look afraid. She looked ready. I wore the necklace for 3 days straight. I didn't take it off, not to sleep, not even when I showered. Every time I looked down and saw the little charm resting against my chest, something settled in me. It was like a private whisper of affirmation. A small rebellion I wasn't even sure I wanted to rebel for. Emma still hadn't come home. Her texts were cold and short. "I need space. Don't call me. I'll let you know when I'm ready to talk." I didn't blame her. I didn't know how I would have reacted if the roles were reversed. I kept telling myself that I hadn't lied, at least not intentionally. It wasn't deceit. It was just hidden truth. But even that sounded hollow. I didn't tell Dr. Kerr that Emma had moved out. I didn't want her to see it as a setback. Or maybe I didn't want her to feel victorious. The deeper I got into these sessions, the more I started to wonder about her true intentions. She said it was therapy. She said I was healing. But it didn't feel like healing anymore. It felt like sculpting. And I was the clay. One afternoon, I came in feeling heavy. I told her I didn't know who I was anymore. I felt torn. Like my soul had split into two halves, Aiden and Ava, and both were silently screaming. Dr. Kerr gave me her usual calm smile and walked over to the wardrobe she kept behind a velvet curtain in the corner of her office. I'd never seen inside. She pulled it back and motioned me over. Pick something that speaks to her, she said. Inside were neatly arranged outfit skirts, dresses, soft cardigans, blouses with pearl buttons, pastel heels. Everything was pristine, elegant, feminine. It was like walking into someone's curated identity. I hesitated. She waited. My fingers settled on a pale blue dress with short sleeves and a fitted waist. I didn't know why. It wasn't loud. It wasn't glamorous. It was just soft, unassuming, comfortable. She nodded approvingly. You're starting to choose. I went behind the folding screen, slipped out of my clothes, and slid into the dress. It hugged me gently, like it had been waiting for me. When I stepped out, Dr. Kerr gave me a look I couldn't decipher, part pride, part nostalgia, part something else I couldn't name. I want you to walk across the room, she said. I did. Again. Slower. Breathe through your steps. She had me repeat it 10 times. Then we worked on posture. Voice. Eye contact. The way I held my wrists. The placement of my shoulders. All the while, she referred to me only as Ava. It was like a quiet audition I didn't know I'd agreed to. Therapy isn't just about talking, she said. It's about becoming. As I looked in the mirror that day, something shifted. My reflection no longer shocked me. I didn't flinch. I didn't feel like I was playing dress up. It felt natural, like catching a glimpse of something I'd always known but never acknowledged. The next session, she introduced makeup. Nothing heavy, just mascara, a dab of blush, a touch of lip tint. We'll go slowly, she said. We're not painting over you. We're revealing you. The first time she handed me the brush, my hand trembled. She guided me through it, holding my wrist with hers, demonstrating on her own face, then gently adjusting mine. You're doing beautifully, she whispered. There was something in her voice that felt deeper than professional pride. Something maternal. And it caught me off guard. After I finished applying the lip tint, she handed me a mirror. I stared at my reflection, the subtle color on my cheeks, the slightly fuller lips, the shimmer around my eyes. I looked real. Not transformed. Not artificial. Just real. That night, I took a walk outside. As Ava. It was late. The streets were quiet. I wore a long coat, the blue dress beneath it, and flat shoes. I kept my head down and didn't go far, just to the corner and back. But the rush was intoxicating. The fear of being seen. The thrill of being free. I smiled for the first time in days. The next week, Dr. Kerr suggested a real-world exercise. There's a quiet cafe a block from here, she said. You'll go, order tea, sit for 10 minutes, then come back. Just Ava. No Aiden. Can you do that? I wasn't sure, but I nodded. She helped me choose an outfit, a soft gray turtleneck dress, black tights, and low ankle boots. She adjusted my hair, added light eyeliner, and handed me a compact mirror. You look lovely, Ava. Don't let fear dim your light. I walked out into the world with shaking hands. The cafe was warm, filled with soft jazz and 2 older couples chatting at distant tables. I ordered chamomile tea. My voice caught in my throat, but the barista didn't blink. Just smiled. I sat by the window, clutching my cup, heart thudding. But nothing happened. No one stared. No one laughed. I was invisible again, but this time, it felt like freedom, not shame. When I returned to the office, Dr. Kerr was waiting by the door. How did it feel? She asked. I swallowed. It felt peaceful. She smiled. You're beginning to live. The weeks passed in a blur of progress. She encouraged me to keep a journal. Not as Aiden, but as Ava. Write her story, she said. Let her speak. And I did. Page after page poured out of me. Memories reframed. Feelings re-explored. I wrote about walking through the park in a sundress. About laughing at myself when I smudged my mascara. About the ache in my chest when I saw an old family photo and no longer recognized the boy in it. Then one day, she handed me a key. This is for the upstairs suite, she said. It's fully furnished. Mirrors, wardrobe, everything you need. I want you to spend a weekend there. Just you. Just Ava. No distractions. It was sudden. Too sudden. I hesitated. You're safe there, she assured. And you need this. To truly meet her. Against my better judgment, I agreed. That weekend, I stepped into a world I didn't know I'd been craving. The suite was beautiful, light-filled, airy, decorated in soft colors and floral prints. The wardrobe was filled with clothes I'd never dreamed of wearing. Dr. Kerr had thought of everything. Skincare, makeup, perfume, even a vanity set with my name Ava engraved into the mirror's edge. For 2 days, I didn't break character. I journaled. I practiced walking. I experimented with outfits. I cooked dinner in a pink apron and watched old movies in slippers. I took selfies, then deleted them. I danced alone in the living room to music I didn't recognize, but somehow felt connected to. It wasn't a costume anymore. It was a life. But on the second night, I found something in the drawer beside the bed. A photo. Old, slightly faded. Dr. Kerr with a young girl, maybe 8 or 9, smiling on a swing. The resemblance to me was eerie. The same chin. Same eyes. Same timid smile. On the back, it said, "For Ava. Always." I felt a chill run down my spine. At our next session, I asked her about it. She didn't flinch. "She was my daughter," she said. "She passed away a few years ago." I stared at her. Why was the picture in the suite? She looked at me with unreadable eyes. "Because when I see you, I see pieces of her. Her gentleness. Her strength. Her grace. That's why I call you Ava. Not to erase you, but to honor her. To heal through you." I didn't know what to say. Part of me felt violated. Another part felt chosen. Special. Needed. "It's your choice," she said. "You don't have to return. But if you do, we continue not as therapist and patient, but as something else. As mentor. As guide. Maybe even as mother and daughter." That night, I stared at the mirror in my own apartment. Emma still hadn't returned. My life as Aiden felt like a sweater I'd outgrown. Tight. Itchy. Ill-fitting. And the name Ava echoed in my mind not as fiction, but as home. I placed the necklace around my neck one final time, and I whispered, "Ava is who I am now." But something deep inside still warned me. This isn't over. The next session was different the moment I stepped into her office. Gone were the questions about my past or how I felt. Instead, Dr. Lysandra had me sit down quietly, her eyes watching me like she already knew something I didn't. Her tone was gentle but firm. "Now, Emily, I think we're ready for something new." She called me Emily again. The name echoed in my mind like a distant bell I couldn't stop hearing. I didn't correct her. Somewhere deep down, I was starting to forget what my old name even felt like. She handed me a sealed envelope. Inside was a schedule. Not just therapy sessions anymore. This one had dance lessons, posture workshops, even etiquette classes. "These are all part of the extended treatment," she explained. "We're going deeper now. This is about recentering yourself. Finding who you really are." I stared at the schedule, unsure whether to laugh or cry. "This isn't normal therapy." "Of course not," she replied with a soft smile. "You didn't come to me for normal, did you?" My chest tightened. The words made too much sense. I didn't remember asking for this. Not in so many words, but maybe I'd said more than I realized in all those confused, desperate sessions. Still, I hesitated. Dr. Lysandra walked over to the tall wardrobe in the corner of the room. It had always been locked before. Now she opened it. Inside hung outfits. Not just any outfits, beautiful, carefully curated clothes in pastel tones. Dresses with lace trim. Soft cardigans. Even blouses with tiny, delicate buttons. Every piece looked like it belonged in a personal boutique. "You'll wear one for next week's session," she said, as if she were assigning me a worksheet. My hands felt numb. I knew what was happening. She was drawing a line in the sand, and part of me wanted to step over it. The other part screamed that I should run, never come back. But I stayed seated. She gently lifted a lavender blouse and handed it to me. "Just try it at home," she said, as if it were a casual dare. "Wear it when you're alone. Let your body feel how it moves." I nodded, and I hated how easy it was for me to say yes. That night, I sat in my room with the blouse laid across my lap. The fabric was soft, far softer than anything I usually wore. I ran my fingers along the edge. My heart raced. I looked in the mirror, holding the blouse up to myself. My reflection looked curious, vulnerable. Then I did something I hadn't done in years. I put it on, and I didn't take it off for hours. Every movement felt exaggerated, more careful, more aware. I found myself standing differently, even walking differently around my apartment without realizing. I wasn't trying to pretend. I just adjusted. My mind followed where the fabric led. At the next session, I didn't need her to hand me the next outfit. I asked for it. Lysandra smiled like she'd been waiting. "Good," she whispered. "You're opening up." Week by week, the sessions changed. She gave me assignments that felt more like training than therapy. She never forced anything. That's what made it worse. Everything was wrapped in suggestion and encouragement, never demand. The makeup lesson came next. I had never touched foundation before, but under her guidance, I sat in front of the mirror and watched as she gently dabbed my face with a sponge. "Look up," she said gently. I obeyed. I expected to feel ridiculous. Instead, it was like watching someone else slowly disappear and someone new emerging. "It's not about hiding," she explained. "It's about allowing. You're not covering anything. You're letting the real you out." The words haunted me that night. I couldn't stop thinking about them. Letting the real you out. What did that mean? I started practicing at home. At first, it was just mimicking the steps she taught me. But then I started exploring. I found myself watching makeup tutorials, mimicking mannerisms. Even changing the way I type messages to her, signing off as Emily without thinking. When I texted my friend Jordan late one night, he didn't even recognize me at first. My tone had changed so much. "Who is this?" he messaged. I paused before replying. "Just someone new." I didn't tell him who. I wasn't ready. Dr. Lysandra noticed my progress. She started giving me more challenging assignments. I had to go out in public, first to a quiet coffee shop, then to a boutique. I was terrified. But she told me, "The fear is part of the healing. You're shedding your old skin." One rainy afternoon, she asked me to bring a photograph of myself from a year ago. I handed her one of the few. I still had a stiff, tired-looking young man in a hoodie. She placed it on her desk and then pulled out her phone. She took a picture of me, sitting across from her in a pale blue blouse, my posture soft, hair pushed back, a light touch of gloss on my lips. She set the two pictures side by side. "Tell me," she asked, "which one looks like you're pretending?" I stared at them both. My heart thudded painfully in my chest. The answer was clear. Not long after, she started introducing me to new people. "This is Ms. Keller," she said one day. "She runs a charm class for young women. I think you'd enjoy her company." Ms. Keller was sharp but kind. She never questioned who I was. She called me Emily without a pause, as if she'd known me forever. She gave me notes on how to walk in heels, how to hold my purse, how to maintain eye contact without appearing confrontational. I laughed more in that class than I had in years. Something about it all felt unreal, yet I couldn't deny the warmth it brought. Back home, my closet was changing. Slowly, the old clothes disappeared. I didn't even remember donating them. The drawers filled with soft pastels, delicate fabrics, and accessories that shimmered in the morning sun. I stopped recognizing my apartment or myself. My reflection changed too. Not just because of the clothes or makeup, but because of how I held myself. My voice softened without me practicing it. I stood taller but moved gentler. One night, I looked into the mirror and said aloud, "Hi, my name is Emily." And I didn't flinch. My voice cracked slightly, but not from shame. From emotion. Was this what freedom felt like? Or was it just another cage I had willingly walked into? I asked Dr. Lysandra that exact question during our next session. "Are you changing me into something I'm not?" She looked at me quietly for a long time. "No," she said finally. I'm helping you see what you already are. You came to me broken. Now you're blooming. I wanted to argue. I really did. But deep down, something inside me believed her. That was the terrifying part. Soon after, she gave me a final task. I want you to spend a weekend entirely as Emily. No switching. No hiding.
Go out. Talk. Be.
I stared at her. That's not therapy. That's transformation. She smiled softly. Isn't that what you came here for? I had no answer. The weekend arrived like a storm. My hands trembled as I pulled on the outfit. I had chosen a flowing skirt, a soft blouse, light blush on my cheeks, and my hair tied back with a ribbon. When I stepped outside, everything felt louder. People's eyes felt like spotlights, but they didn't stare the way I feared. Some smiled. Some looked away. A few didn't even notice. I went to a bookstore, then a cafe, then strolled through a park. Every moment, I felt exposed and yet free. At sunset, I sat on a bench, watching the sky turn golden. A little girl walked by, holding her mother's hand. She looked at me, pointed, and whispered, "She's pretty." Her mother smiled and nodded. Tears filled my eyes.
I didn't even know why.
That night, I wrote in my journal for the first time in months. I think I understand now. I'm not losing myself. I'm uncovering me. When I returned to Dr. Lysandra, she was already waiting with a new dress. This one was white, elegant, almost bridal. "This is your final step," she said. A celebration. I held it in my hands, speechless. But behind the beauty of that moment, a shadow was forming. I could feel it. I didn't know yet that something bigger was coming. Something that would push me further than I ever imagined. Something that would make me question everything again. Because therapy had ended. And something else, something more permanent, had begun. I was barely sleeping by now. Every moment I spent at home, I was thinking about the next appointment. About what she would say. What I'd be expected to wear.
How she would look at me.
Not as a patient, not even as a boy pretending to be something else, but as someone she believed could become her daughter. The way she said it, gently but with a touch of possession, haunted me. It was her eyes. They were calm and kind and terrifying. Because she wasn't joking. When I showed up next, I was wearing the blouse and skirt she'd lent me the week before.
I didn't even argue.
I didn't look for a way out. I buttoned that pale pink blouse, feeling my hands tremble just slightly. I slid into the smooth skirt, adjusted the waistband, and stared at myself in the mirror. It was getting harder to see the old me. My hair was growing longer. My posture had changed. She'd started teaching me to sit with my knees together, to speak with a lighter voice, not squeaky, not fake, but softer. She taught me how to walk more gracefully. She said, "You're doing this not to become someone else. You're discovering who you've always been, buried underneath what people expected you to be." At some point, I started calling her Dr. Valerie. And then just Valerie. I didn't correct her when she started calling me Emma. One session, she told me to bring a small overnight bag. I didn't even question it. I packed the outfits. She suggested comfy pajamas, a casual outfit for walking, and one dress that still made me blush. It was lavender, short-sleeved, and fit like it was made for me. She had sent it over with a note. "You're ready for this." I stayed the night in her guest room. She said it was part of therapy, to learn comfort and confidence in a space where I wouldn't be judged. She made herbal tea, wrapped me in a soft blanket, and we talked on the couch for hours about nothing. And everything. I asked her, finally, what she saw in me. She didn't smile, not this time. "I see a scared girl who thinks the world will fall apart if she shows her real face," she said gently. "But I also see someone brave enough to keep coming back, no matter how confused she is. You're stronger than you think, Emma." When she said my name like that, it didn't feel fake anymore. The next morning, she handed me a foundation stick and some lip gloss. "You'll need to learn this too." And so I did. In those days, I stopped resisting. I followed the steps like I'd always belonged to them. I practiced doing makeup with trembling fingers. Valerie guided me.
She praised me.
She corrected me. She watched me change. And I let her. Then came the photos. "I want you to see what I see," she said. She sat me down after a particularly long afternoon of walking in heels. She'd taken a few dozen photos on her phone, smiling, posing, laughing with her. I was relaxed. And then she showed me the pictures. I froze. That girl on the screen, she looked comfortable.
Pretty. Real.
I blinked. I kept staring. Something twisted in my stomach. It wasn't fear or shame. It was recognition. "I look like her," I whispered. "You are her," Valerie replied. But something else began happening then. I began to forget what day of the week it was. I stayed over more and more often. She said I could, that it was safe, that this was part of letting go of the false identity I was clinging to. I started journaling because she said it would help. But the entries were confusing, sometimes messy. Some days I wrote in a boy's voice. Some days I wrote as Emma. Some days I didn't know who I was. Valerie said that was normal. One day I woke up and couldn't remember the last time I wore my old clothes. My jeans, my t-shirts, they were somewhere in a box. Valerie said we'd donate them when I was ready. I didn't protest. Then the phone calls started. My parents called. My old friends called. I didn't answer. Valerie said, "You need space from the noise. You're healing."
But was I?
Or was I being reprogrammed? I thought that once. Just once. In the middle of a late night, in her guest room, after a long bath, wearing a silky nightgown that felt dangerously comfortable. I whispered, "Is she brainwashing me?" But even as I thought it, I knew the truth. She wasn't forcing anything. She was giving me permission. Still, part of me resisted. The tiny voice inside still asked, "Why me? Why her? Why this?" But the voice grew smaller each day. The week she told me I'd be starting classes again, I panicked. "What do you mean?" "I found a small community college. No one there knows you. You'll enroll as Emma." "That's insane. I can't just become someone else legally." "You're not becoming someone else. You're finally aligning." I stared at her. "You want me to live this forever?"
"No," she said.
"I want you to live what's true." But what if I didn't know what that was? The next few days passed in a blur. She helped me get ID under the new name. She had connections, legal help, counselors.
She said it was therapy.
She said this was all about recovery. But it felt like I was becoming someone else. And yet it didn't feel wrong. One night, as we sat on the couch, she said something that stuck with me forever. "Do you know why I chose you?" I shook my head. "Because you didn't run. Because somewhere in you, you always wanted this but never had the words." I felt tears rise. I didn't know. I swear I didn't know. "I know," she whispered, pulling me gently into a hug. "But now you do." She kissed my forehead.
I didn't resist.
I closed my eyes. When I opened them, the world had changed. I started living with her full-time. There was no exact moment when I moved in, it just happened gradually, like a fog settling in. First, the overnight bags. Then my toothbrush had a spot in her bathroom. Then a drawer. Then a closet. Then she offered me a key. I took it without a word. She stopped calling me her patient. She started introducing me as her daughter. The word made my stomach flip every time she said it. Sometimes it filled me with warmth. Other times it made me feel like I was living someone else's life. But I stopped correcting her. I stopped protesting. I started looking the part: dresses, soft jeans, cropped sweaters, ballet flats, hair tied in soft ponytails or casual buns. She told me I glowed. But I didn't always feel like I was glowing. Sometimes I felt hollow. Sometimes I missed my old self, even if I never really liked him. But Valerie said that was natural, that letting go of a shell hurts, even if it was never really you. She told me to lean into the discomfort, that healing didn't mean always feeling good. Then she took me shopping in public.
It wasn't a private boutique.
It wasn't a hidden place. It was a real mall, full of strangers, full of risks. I walked next to her in a pale yellow sundress she picked for me. My arms were bare. My legs were shaved. My face had just enough makeup to look effortless. My heart pounded so loud it felt like the world could hear it. But no one stared. No one pointed. People smiled. Saleswomen complimented my hair. A man held a door for me and said, "After you, miss." It was surreal. Like a test I didn't know I could pass. "You see?" Valerie whispered as we walked through the food court. "They see what you're showing them." That night, I cried in the bathtub. Not because I was scared anymore, but because I realized I didn't want to go back. That realization terrified me more than anything. I wasn't pretending anymore, and I wasn't ready to admit it out loud. But life started happening faster. She signed me up for school. I started classes. Nobody questioned me. I was Emma on every form, every roster, every email. I sat beside girls who laughed with me. I made small talk with guys who flirted. I started using public bathrooms without freezing. I lived like her daughter. She treated me like family, bought me medicine when I was sick, sat beside me during late-night study sessions, gave me advice about dating. She told me to wear what made me feel powerful, not just pretty. "You're not a doll," she said one night. "You're a woman learning to stand." I whispered, "But I'm not." She touched my hand.
You are.
"You just haven't accepted it yet." But not everything was perfect. My parents eventually tracked me down. They found out where I was studying. They sent letters, emails, voicemails. Some begged me to come home. Some were angry. Some sounded like strangers reading lines they didn't believe. Valerie saw me reading them one night and quietly took my phone away. "You're not ready for their words. Not yet. But they're my family. You're building a new one." And then she said it. "You're my daughter now. That means something. I'm not letting them break what we've built." I should have felt safe. Instead, I felt a chill. Because part of me wondered, how much of this was therapy and how much of it was her dream? Was I healing? Or was I being shaped? I started having vivid dreams of mirrors, of looking into them and not recognizing who stared back. Sometimes I'd see Emma smiling. Sometimes I'd see my old self behind her eyes, trapped. The dreams got worse. In one, I was standing in front of a class, giving a presentation, when my voice cracked back into a deep masculine tone. Everyone stared,
Laughed.
Valerie was in the back row, shaking her head. I woke up in tears. But every morning, I still put on the clothes she laid out for me. I still wore the makeup she taught me. I still smiled like everything made sense. Until one afternoon changed everything. We were sitting in her office, the one she barely used for therapy anymore. She had a gift bag. "I have something for you," she said, eyes twinkling. Inside was a necklace. A small silver pendant with the letter E. "It's time," she said gently, "to let go of the old name. You're ready." I looked at the necklace, heart racing. What if I'm not? "You are." I looked at her, trying to find doubt in her face. There was none.
So I put it on.
And the moment I did, something cracked. I smiled. I thanked her. I said all the right things. But that night, I looked in the mirror and whispered, "What have I done?" I started to question everything. Had I ever truly chosen this? Or had I been guided, piece by piece, until there was no way back? The next day, I didn't get dressed. I sat in my room in silence. Valerie knocked gently. "Are you all right?" "I think I need space," I said quietly. Her face changed, just slightly. A twitch in her jaw. A brief, cold flash in her eyes. "I've only ever helped you," she said calmly. "I know. I need to think." There was a pause. "Of course," she said finally. "Take all the time you need." But that night, I found my clothes missing.
Not all of them.
Just the ones I used to wear when I was alone, baggy sweats, old hoodies. Gone from the drawers. When I asked her, she said, "You outgrew them." That was when the fear returned. I started checking my messages. Someone had been deleting voicemails. I searched my old email account. Many were marked read. I hadn't opened them. That's when I realized I didn't know the password anymore. It had been changed. I confronted her. Her expression didn't flinch. "I did what I had to do," she said softly. "You were spiraling. I protected you. I backed away from her. This was therapy, I whispered. Right? Her eyes locked onto mine.
This was family, she replied.
The room felt smaller. I packed a bag that night. Just a few things. Enough to get away. I didn't know where I'd go. I didn't even know who I was anymore. But I needed air. I needed to think without her voice in my head. But when I opened the door to leave, she was standing there. You're not ready, she said gently. I need to go. You'll fall apart. Maybe. She looked at me like she was seeing through me. You're my daughter, Emma. You'll come back. I left anyway. The air outside was cold.
Real.
I took a train to a nearby city. I checked into a cheap motel. I stared at myself in the mirror for hours. I didn't recognize the person staring back, but I didn't hate them, either. Just confused. I started writing again. Not journaling. A letter. To myself. To Emma. To whoever I was. I wrote everything. The good.
The bad.
The blurry. And when I finished, I still didn't have answers. But I felt lighter. Then my phone buzzed. A single message from an unknown number. You'll come home.
You always do.
And that was when I realized I wasn't just running from my past anymore. I was running from her future.